Greetings to my fellow hiccup heroes across the world. Welcome to another episode of the Hiccups and Healing Podcast, the ultimate destination for anyone navigating the tumultuous waters of high conflict co-parenting. I'm your host, Saddiq-Cisse, and today we have a very special guest joining us from the mountains of Colorado. She is a seasoned licensed marriage and family therapist with years of experience in helping families navigate the challenges of co-parenting and raising children effectively. Her name is Shawna Bernath, and she is here to share her expert advice on effective communication as a means to conflict resolution and the impact that it has on the kiddos. Shawna's educational background includes an undergraduate degree in family studies and human services, as well as a master's in marriage and family therapy. With certifications in cognitive behavioral therapy, trauma-focused cognitive behavioral therapy, emotion-focused therapy, and parent management training, Shawna is definitely well-rounded. Shawna's approach to therapy is based on utilizing a strength-based approach and an attachment-based lens while working with clients. In sessions, she helps clients learn skills and practice them in the moment through role plays to pinpoint specific barriers to identifying and communicating needs, all while risking vulnerability with those closest to us in a co-parenting situation. In our conversation today, we dive into the impact of high conflict co-parenting on children and how effective communication can help resolve conflicts and create a more nurturing environment for all parties involved. Shawna shares her valuable insights on the triggers of high conflict and behaviors of children in co-parenting situations, and how parents can help their kids navigate these difficult times. Shawna believes in creating a safe and non-judgmental therapeutic space to process thoughts and behaviors that come from emotional triggers. She provides support through in-session activities and worksheets to continue the use of skills between sessions. Her goal is to be the village of support for those who need it most. So sit back, relax, and join me in this insightful conversation with Shawna Bernath as we explore the keys to effective communication in high conflict co-parenting. So Shawna, thank you for being with us today. Could you share a little bit about your background and what your personal mission statement is when it comes to the work that you do?
My background, I graduated back in 2012 with marriage and family therapy. So I was really hoping to work with either couples or families around managing that system, because it can get pretty complicated, especially again, when you go through a lot of stress. It's how do we work together as a team? Again, whether we're cohabitating, living together, or co-parenting and navigating that system as well. So I'm there to help facilitate how do we best support the kiddo as they go through that process. I also worked in a lot of child protection. So I did in-home therapy as well as family preservation or reunification. Again, giving parents the skills to get their kids back in their home and figure out what they need to do to create that environment for them. Again, most parents don't know the skills or know how to apply them or even the supports that they have around them. So my mission statement would be like, it takes the village, the supports that you have around you and knowing who to trust with that information so that you know that you're giving the kids the best that they deserve.
And so what inspired you to pursue this career path and help families navigate the challenges of co-parenting and raising children?
I believe a lot of it comes from personal experience growing up. My parents were together and married, but the communication between them, like navigating schedules and things like that, were challenging. And then working in child protection and getting that kind of background really helped with how do we navigate some of these things. Personal experience as well as just a personal interest too. Again, wanting to preserve the family and the relationships. I really value that, working on things in the home.
I see. So just to clarify, your parents weren't actually in a co-parenting situation themselves, right? They were together and raised you under the same roof. Am I correct?
Did end up splitting later down the road, but I was an adult at that time. Yeah.
Can you speak on your personal experience having divorced parents as an adult?
It was a shock. Honestly, it was one of those things that you don't necessarily expect to happen, but given the communication that they were lacking at that time, I think that now they still get together during holidays and things like that. They do their best, but anything that's really emotionally intense, they steer clear from that. Very superficial, surface level type stuff.
So if I understand correctly, there was a breakdown in communication between your parents that caused some issues. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, especially again, raising multiple kids growing up, you want to get them involved in things and you want to be able to manage their schedules and make sure that they get the support that they need. And I think a lot of the time, emotional support falls to the wayside. Like you get a lot of that physical support, basic needs getting met and things like that. But sometimes even with that busy schedule, stress happens and life happens. And some parents struggle navigating that or even turning back towards each other and being able to rebuild that part of their relationship, which eventually leads to that co-parenting. Or even what my parents experience is just living under one roof, but just living separate lives, if that makes sense. That business piece of a relationship versus the actual emotional closeness and intimacy that we need.
Oh, wow. Absolutely. I completely understand. Thank you for being so open about that part of your life and sharing it with us. Do you think that your personal experience gives you unique insights on how to better help other parents who may be going through similar situations?
Absolutely. I think there's a lot to take from personal experience and being able to provide them certain tools that maybe I have learned from, or again, if they worked on some of those things in the marriage, it may not have been such a big thing now. But if they didn't know about what they needed to work on, that's the part where I want to help parents is like, they didn't know really how to go about it. I want to be able to provide families, especially working with littles, child development information and things about stuff that could happen and turning towards each other instead of turning away, and figure out ways that we can, again, communicate effectively so that they, don't hear about our arguments or disagreements, as well as still making things stable for them as best as they can, again, in that instability.
Wow, that's really powerful. I completely agree that co-parenting should be the top priority for parents, especially in high conflict co-parenting situations. It's important to remember that the well-being and future of the child is always at stake in these situations, and allowing communication issues to continue can have a ripple effect for generations to come. It's important to break down the cycle of generational trauma, and I think that's where your work as a therapist can be so impactful. By helping parents improve their communication and co-parenting skills, you can make a real difference in the lives of families and future generations. The theme of our conversation today is effective communication and conflict resolution in high conflict co-parenting situations. Can you share with us a particularly challenging co-parenting situation that you have helped a family navigate while maintaining client-therapist confidentiality, of course? You don't have to share any names, but if there is something you can relate to, that would be great.
No, definitely. Again, when I worked with families, depending on what they come in for, they definitely have to navigate then that family system. So if I'm seeing a kiddo and then I then observe that there's some conflict between parents, I like to bring them in and talk through some of that a little bit. Now, depending on when I do that, I like to have information about how the kid can navigate through that parent conflict. I like to help figure out what does the kid need before I even bring them in. So I can help support them and advocate for them while their parents are talking through some stuff. Again, very structured in session about what we talk about. I don't let it fly too far off the rails, because if the kid's in the room, sometimes I'll have them together even too. But certain themes would be like difference in parenting styles. Yeah, one parent's super strict or one's really laissez-faire and doesn't open door policy kind of thing. The boundaries around certain communication styles too. One may be very over communicating, one may just not want to share anything. So I kind of have to go in and see that system and figure out what they need so they can help support the kiddo. I always try to tie it back in to where their emotional needs are being met so they don't get too much of that bleed in from like that parent conflict. So definitely things that happen at school, I have a lot of parents feeling left out when that may not be the intention of the other parent. And sometimes it is. But again, that's what we would work through. Is it your intention? Are you trying to effectively leave them out? Or how do we get dad information or mom information? And even saying that, even caregivers in general, whether it's grandparents looking after their kiddo during the custody thing, where maybe like mom or dad aren't in the picture. How do they navigate, again, the well-being of the kiddo at school, home, in the community, looking at all of those things. But a lot of the time, there's conflict in that of what they want the kid to do or how they get that information. There are systems in place. There's like mediators or therapists that can help facilitate some of those things. And I do also like to look at the court documents just to see or have them talk through that, like what the parenting plan looks like, what is legally bound, so I can help support that as well. Again, the communication that I get would be, kiddo doesn't want to go. then I'm just like, so tell me about that. Walk me through what that looks like so you can help support kiddos so you don't get stuck in a position where you're going against court orders or things like that. Like, how do we facilitate that safe transition or handoff? And then talking with both parents of how they navigate that. That might be the difference between, again, a therapist and a mediator too, is like what we talk about in session and things like that. Those would be general themes that I tend to see.
Oh, okay. So how frequently do you typically encounter clients who are dealing with high conflict co-parenting situations? And are the majority of your clients dealing with this issue, or do some of them come to therapy for other reasons as well, such as general self-improvement?
Honestly, sometimes parents don't even realize what their impact on the kiddo. And so I see kiddos initially, and then I observe their triggers and ways that they support themselves, and then their behaviors out of those emotions to help the parents navigate that. But once I start working in that system a bit, I'm like, oh, we probably need to pull the parents in. Oh, there's probably some high conflict going on. I do have parents that come to me for that specific reason, like they're going through a divorce and they want their kids to process what that's like for them and get some more information from a third party or someone that they can build a relationship with and talk about those things. Because that's a lot of stress. Like going through some of that thing, co-parenting, yeah, it's high stress, and divorce and separation is high stress. So I want to give the kiddos a place where they can process through some of it and talk about, again, those themes of transitioning from one house to the other and how that feels for them, how they can communicate certain things to their parents if they need to. But the parents also have to be in a good place to receive that, hear that. And that's what my office is for, is to help facilitate that. But it's a mixed bag. It's sometimes they come to me with their kiddo and they say, this is what we need to work on. And then after a while, I'm like, oh, there's also some things there that we need to talk about. And then there's some that's, we're going through this. We need them to process through it as well.
Okay, so that makes sense. And I can completely relate to everything that you're saying, actually. See, I recently had an experience that speaks to that. I pick up my daughter on Wednesdays from her mother, and then I have her until Saturday night before I take her back. The following week, I'll have her until Friday. Typically, she's happy to see me, but sometimes she's a bit standoffish and says she wants to stay with her mother. Recently, my daughter had diarrhea, and I let her mother know. Her mother, who is a nurse, suggested that it could be due to the stress of transitioning between households. I didn't realize that this could be an actual source of stress for her. And due to past high conflict situations, I initially thought, all right, her mother was trying to attack me by suggesting that the stress was due to the transition between households. But instead of responding defensively, I let it go and tried to understand the situation better. With that being said, what are some symptoms of high conflict co-parenting that you've personally seen in children who are experiencing high conflict situations?
Especially what you just described. That's fairly common of kids, again, depending on, even if it's the same day, depending on their day or even a couple days before, even if a kid of a certain age, over communication is what I would advocate for. You're going tomorrow, or 3 sleeps until dad's house, that kind of thing, so that they are constantly aware, because they forget. And then all of a sudden they're in the car and it just moves so fast, and then they're having a hard time processing. So it is very much, okay, if that's what I hear and I think that, I'm just going to hold it for a little bit, have her come home, and then figure out what we need to do. And then, yes, kind of deal with the symptoms that come from that and do what you need to do around all of those things. But absolutely, those transitions are stressful because it's that anxiety, because we all have a little bit of that anxiety. I don't know what to expect, even though I know it's at the house. It's just that transition of I'm playing and now I have to go and I don't want to, but they present in a way that might kind of hit ourselves a little bit of, oh, I want her to be, I'm happy to see her. Oh, she's not happy to see me. But it is, oh man, their anxiety is so big. How do I help calm them down a little bit and help them transition in? Just what you were talking about is some of the things that I see. It's not that they don't want to go there unless there's active stuff going on. But it's very much, how do we help support that anxiety and that worry about, I don't know what to expect over there. Even though I've been there multiple times, I just don't know what's going to happen. What are we going to do? What's the plan for the next day? Is my favorite cereal there? All those little things that we try to provide their comfort stuff with, so you can help that transition. But
okay, that makes a lot of sense. In connection to everything that you were saying, one thing we've been trying to do with my daughter is to avoid saying things like, I don't know where mommy is, or I don't know what she's doing. After she asks for her mom and I tell her she's at work, sometimes she'll ask where mommy is going. By consistently telling her that mommy is at work, it gives her a better understanding of what her mom is doing during the day, even when she's with me. It also helps to avoid highlighting the conflict between us and keeps things positive for our daughter. So she's only 2 and turning 3 next month, so it's important for her to feel secure and stable in her environment. Plus, it's great to see how excited she gets when she sees me working and wants to help out. Of course, there are still days where she's tired or upset and doesn't want to leave either of us, but I try not to take it personally or assume that she doesn't want to be with me, even though it may hurt sometimes. As you mentioned earlier, it's important to consider the anxiety and stress that the child may be feeling due to the situation, rather than assuming it's a reflection on their feelings towards us.
And how we view that. Because if she's crying for mom, it's she loves her mom. Absolutely. Yes. So I'm going to validate the fact that she misses her. Yeah, their mommy's going to work. We don't like it when she goes to work. We want to spend time with her. I want to spend time with you too because you're a fun kiddo. So they're at such a level of dysregulation that they can't even think. Like they're just reacting because they're little. We try to be as parents like that non-anxious presence. So they have you as like that rock, that grounding. So they could be a hot mess and then you can just like, I got you. It's not about me. Once we pass through this, then we're going to have fun. I know you miss your mom and I have crafts for us at the table, or I'm taking you to the aquarium, or we're going to go for a walk to the park this afternoon, get a slushie or something. So they're in distress. Absolutely. But it is like you said, I don't want to take that as a personal attack. How do I help and think that, oh, she loves her mom. I want her to have a good relationship. And how do I just help that transition?
Wow, thank you for that feedback. With that being said, can you share some other ways that you've been able to assist parents who come to you with high conflict co-parenting situations? How have you helped them ease the conflict they were experiencing or improve their co-parenting relationship?
Yeah, at this point, and again, as I was getting my hours for licensure and things like that, I wasn't as direct. But after going through certain evidence-based trainings that I've been involved in, or just being in that environment for so long, I've gotten a good idea of what kind of needs to be done, especially when I realized my role is advocating for these kiddos of how now their parents are going to navigate their own emotional support. So I'm pretty direct in what I can observe from them, what they're talking about and things like that. I try to tie it back to the kid. So if a parent is like talking through something, I'm really direct about what they're needing. Like I was saying before, when kiddos come into my office, I get a good idea of how they respond to stress, anxiety, fear, worry, given their environment that they're in. Then I can help pull that information and give it to the parents. And then if they continue with treatment, I can observe how frequently are they using these skills. 70% of the time, honestly, is good enough, because that 30%, what you're talking about is like a struggle with those transitions and just a complete dysregulation. So you're seeing them being tired and cranky and things like that. So everything's out the window. I'm just going to figure out what I need to do to just help calm them down a little bit. Everything that I planned today may not work. It's our own flexibility in that, and kids are so erratic that we just don't know what we're going to get when they show up. Have to kind of be flexible. And when we're not in a good emotional state, we're less flexible too. We're a little bit more rigid. So it's good to be mindful of our own regulation and being able to apply that with our kiddos. I'm very direct, and then supplying them with information. I'm overly communicating what they're needing, and I give them handouts and they have access to me. I just think the village aspect is super needed when it comes to how do we navigate this when it's high conflict, because very impulsive in that space and reactive. So I kind of want to help them navigate it as well as be mindful of like how it impacts the kids.
Okay, so I understand. Thank you for sharing that. It's quite impressive how resourceful you are. And as you said, raising a child takes a community. It takes a village. With that in mind, what are some of the most common triggers for conflict in high conflict co-parenting situations? And how do you assist parents in identifying and managing these triggers?
Again, depending on what the legal documents say or what that co-parenting or parenting strategy is going to be like, I like to meet with families, the couple individually, like the parents individually together, just to see where they're at too. I might recommend individual therapy for both of them, or even maybe more of a mediator to help do that as well. There's also educational programs. So working in child protection, I'm very resourceful in that way. I know where to look for some of these things, like educational programs or groups. I can help support them in between our time together. So it's not just like the weekly therapy that we're going to be doing, but also in between our time, I can help provide them with books and resources that other parents have told me about, or ones that I would recommend in session and things like that. So even apps, I kind of get a good idea of what they're doing currently and ways that I can help support them depending on the need that they're wanting. So sometimes the communication has broken down in a relationship. That's a common one. Some misread signals or misinterpretations of things that we were seeing before, of like an interaction can really trigger a parent depending on the subconscious stuff that they're bringing into the relationship. Even going through the process of divorce and separation is very challenging. With that, of course, brings like financial issues and concerns too, differences of schedules, how they navigate all of those things. And again, like I was talking about, their own personal conflicts that they have going on. So what I like to do, again, is like that all to me is data, is just information. Impact of that, what they experience and interpret from that is where I like to camp and talk about, as well as help get some of that information, because that's going to be similar throughout that whole process of how they navigate schedules and things like that. But it's like, how do you not let that conflict impact kiddo? And how does kiddo navigate through some of those things as well? Being a therapist, that's where I like to camp, is like, how are they experiencing the situation and their own personal interpretations of what's going on, given all of that data, all of the scheduling, the financial things that were stressful in the first place, where the mediator might create more of an outline of what we need to do.
Yeah, that makes sense, because my ex-wife and I had to go through a mediator. Even though we were in court for custody, we were able to settle on a custody order through the mediator from the court without having to actually let the judge decide on our fate. I'm grateful for that, but there was a time when I had to spend a weekend in jail myself over this conflict, which was very hard. After that, I wasn't allowed to see my daughter until I had a hearing, and I couldn't speak to her or her mother. It was tough on me mentally, but I continued to exercise limited communication with her mother and started practicing more parallel parenting after that experience. So I would let her mother be the parent of her home, and I would be the parent of mine. We didn't have to exchange any extra information or expect any information from each other. All I would say is arrived when I picked my daughter up and dropped her off. But I know it's not the best situation for our daughter. Establishing communication is necessary, even if it's difficult. For families that can't seem to speak without fighting, what would you recommend to establish effective communication again for the best interest of the child? Because as I am coming to realize, I had to break down those barriers and be able to actually engage in some form of fashion with her mother to better be present in my child's life.
Honestly, from what you were saying, that's incredible. Like your intention and effort to still maintain a relationship with your daughter, whatever that looked like at that moment, again, depending on what the communication is like, because you don't want to overstep boundaries or anything at that moment. And she's still at such a young age that your involvement, right? Man, I wish it's not what we want, but there is something that you do want. So everything that you said, I love that, because it's very much, if I can't communicate with my partner, that's where we need to work. So how do I then do individual therapy and figure out a way to actively communicate to the person I'm co-parenting with? So you learn I statements in therapy, you learn just other ways of active communication, and not also be in a space that we're not hearing things again from a place of, oh, they're trying to dig at me, versus I'm not going to take that hook. My best interest of the kiddo, I'm not going to even reply to that text message. Again, you're in therapy recognizing how do I be? Which hook do I take or which one I don't? So I don't get entangled in some of that stuff that doesn't involve the kiddo.
Okay, so you've mentioned I statements. What's that exactly?
So that's talking from a place of, I am frustrated or I feel. So again, it's very robotic initially when we talk about, I feel sad, I feel angry about what's happening, versus you're making me feel this way, you did this. Because relationships, we have equal contribution in how we navigate that. If I have control over myself, the other person can't get into that similar pattern that we used to be in. They might push back, even though they might continue to hound me about stuff. If I don't take those hooks, then I'm going about what I know that I need to do in order for my kiddo. And in order to do that, again, if you're knowing that drop-offs are going to be triggering for you, it's your personal responsibility to put yourself in a good place to have that effectively, or just remain silent until you get like, kiddo's dropped off. Okay, man, I'm going to call my buddy, or I'm going to vent this way about what happened. Using those supports in your village outside of like the kiddo being able to see kind of what you're talking about and thinking about is very helpful. So for you as like a parent, definitely surrounding yourself with people that are going to help support you and give you helpful information, the people that you trust.
Yes, I totally agree. When you start to point fingers and accuse the other person, it's not a recipe for healthy communication. Instead, speaking from your own perspective can allow for more openness and understanding from the other person. I can definitely see why that approach would be more effective. So, when it comes to engaging in healthy communication with a co-parent, how can someone prevent their past trauma from influencing their emotional response and potentially derailing the conversation? What strategies or techniques can be used to control emotional reactions and foster a more productive and constructive dialogue with their co-parent?
So depending on who's going to deliver that information based on their observations of what's going on is helpful. Because if you try to tell that co-parent, that parent you're trying to co-parent with, man, you need to get that looked at, or they're not going to trust what you have to say. So that would be very high conflict. Their environment, their supports that they surround themselves with needs to be impartial. Like they need to not just feed into a certain narrative that person has in their mind of that's not reality of what's going on. They also need to check themselves a bit. But if they surround themselves with people that are just yes men, or just saying, oh yeah, keep doing that, even though it's unhealthy, it doesn't provide an environment for self-growth or insight. Because that parent needs to come to a realization that this interaction isn't healthy. But who gives them that information? They have to be able to trust that input. So it just depends on who tells them that. And again, when I was talking about the equal contribution in that relationship, it's if you don't take those hooks, then they can't continue that pattern. You could, again, not take those hooks, and eventually they ease off of that depending on the person and for how long. Again, like it could be 6 months or even a year of like just conflict. But if you as a person are doing therapy, using I statements, trying your best 70% of the time, that's going to be good enough. And then you focus on your home, what you do, emotional support with your kiddo, validation, understanding of what's going on, supporting their anxiety. That piece of intensity really shortens so that you're doing what you need to do, knowing that you're trusting people that are educated or people that, have like healthy environments for their own kids. Like you surround yourself in your village with people that you trust. Because as we get older, our circle comes a little smaller. We're a little bit more rigid about who we let into that.
And so this conversation has been very, very insightful. And as we wrap up, what message would you like to share with co-parents who are struggling with conflict and communication? What key takeaways or lessons would you want them to remember from our discussion today?
Relationships are important, and raising children, it's important as well. And knowing about yourself and not being so reactive in a place is going to be very helpful in just navigating all the stress that comes with parenting and relationships, because they're hard. We're not taught these things. So referencing books and people that you trust is going to be very helpful moving forward.
And so, thank you for joining us on this episode of the Hiccups in Healing podcast. Today, we had a fascinating conversation with Shawna Bernath, a licensed therapist from Colorado, about high conflict co-parenting and effective communication. First, we learned about the impact of high conflict co-parenting on children. Children are often caught in the middle of their parents' conflicts, leading to emotional distress and anxiety. Shawna shared how she works with children to identify their triggers, behaviors, and ways to support themselves. She also emphasized the importance of involving parents in the process to ensure that the child's needs are being met. We also discussed the importance of over-communication. When it comes to co-parenting, Shawna stressed the need to communicate frequently, especially with young children, to help them prepare for transitions from one parent's home to the other. She also highlighted the importance of validation and empathy towards the child's feelings and emotions, even if they don't align with our own. Furthermore, Shawna provided expert advice on effective communication as a means to conflict resolution. She emphasized the need to listen actively, speak clearly and directly, and to use I statements instead of blaming or accusing language. She also suggested setting clear boundaries and expectations and using positive reinforcement to encourage good behavior. Lastly, we discussed the importance of self-care for co-parents. Going through a separation or divorce is a stressful time for everyone involved. And it's important to prioritize your own well-being as well as your child's. Shawna suggested finding a support system, engaging in self-care activities, and seeking professional help when necessary. In conclusion, Shawna's expert advice in high conflict co-parenting and effective communication was insightful and informative. We hope that you found these takeaways helpful and can implement them in your own co-parenting journey. Remember to prioritize your own and your child's well-being, listen actively, communicate clearly, and show empathy towards your child's emotions. And so, I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Hiccups in Healing podcast. If you enjoyed this content, then don't forget to share your thoughts and comments below on your experience with high conflict co-parenting. Also, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell so you never miss an episode. Thank you for watching, and remember, stay strong, stay hopeful, and keep healing.